This podcast contains adult themes, explicit language, and the kind of conversations your browser history would rather forget. Listener discretion is advised, and curiosity is highly encouraged.
Pawn for thought. Pawn for thought. Pawn for thought. Pawn for thought. I could beatbox if you want.
We are your kindly sex detectives, ready to guide you through every "what the hell did I just watch" question you have.
Matt is a mental health practitioner with over 3 decades of self-appreciation under his belt.
And Bea is an accredited psychosexual therapist who's seen it all, heard it all, and at this point, the algorithm is afraid of her next search.
I have a dick in my mouth right now. Matt, my sweet angel pie, what are we talking about in this episode?
In this episode, we are talking about feet, or more specifically, foot fetishes.
So not just feet, but the love of feet.
The sexual attraction and enamorment with feet.
The desire?
Slutting out your feet.
Stop it.
Slut out
You're
my
filthy.
feet. I love that.
Spreading your toes.
Gold.
This one, for me, I had no particular opinion either way.
Yeah. It's just not something that I would, actively search for to try and smash one out.
And now that we have both actively searched for it, I can still
Are we better people for it?
conclusively say...
Do you feel like you've grown?
I think I have grown. I would like to say that I've grown. And I say that I've grown because not only did I kind of develop a sense of, oh yeah, cool, I get it. Not really, like I didn't sit there and go, I'm going to get turned on by this, but I can appreciate, after reading some of the comments, what people found so interesting and attractive about it. And so maybe what I've grown in is empathy and understanding.
And we love that because I think it's important to dip your toes in as such to really to really get a feel for something before you have an opinion about it, which I think is pretty common. Like a lot of people will look at something and say, nah, that's gross, I'd never watch something like that. But it's not until you actually watch it and you go, yeah, you know what? It's not for me. Sure, other people might be into it, but I'm not turned off by it either. So that's important.
That is important. So I guess put your feet up. Let's learn about podophilia.
Podophilia indeed.
So podophilia is foot fetishism, the sexual interest in feet, anything associated with them, so shoes, stockings, socks. And it's the most common type of sexual fetish for a non-sexual body part.
And it's referred to as partialism because it's the focus on a part of the body that is not the genitals, but it's something that is sexually arousing for some people.
And we see it a lot in like the media where you'll have someone roll up their sleeve, and like men specifically, I think it's a very heterosexual thing to see a man roll up their sleeve and they flex their forearms, and a lot of people will be like, damn, that's a type of sexual partialism. You're finding that particular body part, a non-sexual body part, attractive or arousing in a certain sense. Maybe you're not going to fuck it, but you are. Maybe. I don't know what
you can give it a try. Stick your two arms together and, you can fuck anything. But it's kind of like also... We'd watch anything. So, yeah, I mean, it's true. Not, we're all about learning. We're all about expanding our horizons.
Well, what am I saying? Of course, if someone was like, I'm going to whip out a forearm, I'd be like, all right, show me what you've got.
All right, fine. I'm more intrigued as to how this is going to go down logistically than whether or not it's going to make me come.
Yeah, well, 100%.
Maybe if it makes me come, though, I mean, that's kind of an added bonus, right? Like, I didn't know it was something that was going to do that.
And now, again, we've left this space. It is. I was going to say that. It's growth. And not just the empathetic kind, but you've grown as a human being, specifically that body part that grows.
Well done for you. Look at you go.
So fetishism has been labelled like different things. We've got the podophilia, you've got foot fetishism, you've got foot worship, foot partialism, where you get aroused by different body parts. But there's different ways that people fantasize about feet.
I think it's a very nuanced topic. I think there's so many different avenues that people can go down when it comes to podophilia or feet fetishism.
A fetish is a sexual fixation. And that means it is 100% you need it. You need it to come, you need it to enjoy yourself, you need it to have desire. Like it becomes absolutely necessary to how you get off. Whereas a kink is something that you can enjoy. It adds to an interest or a fantasy, but it is not impossible for you to enjoy your sex life or your partner without it.
Exactly. We could say, if you're looking at it as though it's a kink, maybe it's something you do occasionally with your partner because it's something different. It just mixes things up a bit. It sparks up a little bit of variation within your sexual diet. And, maybe every now and then you like it when your partner jerks you off with their feet. But it's not something that you need to have as an interaction every single time that you have sex to get off.
Can you imagine if you did?
Needed feet in your life every single time?
Every single time.
Hmm.
I think that'd be really hard, and I can appreciate why there's so many people that feel like the self-reported amount of shame. I mean, the other side of feet fetishes is podophobia, which is a phobia of feet. And there's actually quite a number of people who experience that. So
no, I think you're on the right track though, because there is a lot of inherited shame when it comes to feet. People that I've spoken to about this sort of topic have said the same thing. Like, it was something that I grew up with feeling ashamed of my feet, like they were dirty, like they were disgusting, like they're not something that I wanted to be a part of, something that would be enjoyable or sexual in the future. But as I grew as a person and became more accepting and sort of overcame a lot of that shame, it did become a part of their sexuality or their sexual interests. And some people, even it became a fetish for them or a kink. And I think that's really cool that we can sort of go from having shame around something to then growing and realizing that there's nothing to be ashamed of.
historically speaking, there was a researcher who looked at paraphilias and sins and what he deemed problematic sexual behaviors. And he listed feet in there because that was a personal opinion, but he was the first person to research it and document it. And he examined it from such a negative space that it became part of the sexual narrative around it.
Super interesting. Some things that I found in my travels on the internet, research as we like to call it, included things like olfactophilia, so the smells of feet, foot worship, which is essentially worshipping feet, everything about them. Some people mentioned that, they were really turned on by the soles. Other people were really turned on by toes, pointing and flexing of the feet.
And then there's licking and sucking on toes, which, a bit more common. Trampling, so walking across someone or, stomping on them as a form of humiliation and dominance.
I even read something on Reddit too about somebody having their partner stomp in different types of foods like cake and desserts and things like that, and then licking it off their feet. Which, I mean, I'd be down for. I'm down for eating food at any time. So even if it's off feet, well, you know what? Let's give it a crack. See how we go.
I get it. Provided your foot's clean. We're just talking about snack time.
If you got clean feet, I'm down. Let's get that condensed milk.
My favorite red velvet cake. Bring her out. What are you going to serve it to me on your big toe? Okay.
If you did have to eat something off feet, what would it be?
Oh my God. That's such a good question.
I'm not going to lie. I have done some toe sucking before, and it's not bad. It's quite enjoyable. But I agree. They have to be clean feet for me.
Yeah, I have had my toes sucked before, and it was just fine. I was there. That's probably the extent of it.
I hate people touching my feet because they're super ticklish. And I thought that the first time I ever had my toes sucked, I was going to be probably boot them in the face type thing. But it was actually quite enjoyable and it wasn't ticklish. So, I mean, sometimes you got to live and learn, right?
I'm going to agree with you, clean feet for me. However, on that note, the other thing here is there's a lot of people who are interested in dirty feet.
100%.
And ugly feet, when I was having a bit of a look.
What makes feet ugly, though?
I mean, calluses,
right.
deformities. And I realize I'm not using the right word, but when you Google it, That's what they're looking for.
Yeah, right. This isn't our description of what makes a foot ugly, by the way, guys. All feet are
All
beautiful
feet are
in our
beautiful.
eyes. This is simply what people have searched for and deemed to be quote unquote ugly.
That's not us.
We love your feet.
Or like cracked and chipped nail polish, ingrown toenails that are like not cut and polished and all that sort of stuff. So like there's a market for that. There's people who really like that stuff. And that I think follows on to the olfactophilia you were talking about and the licking and sucking and everything like that of people like different things.
Yeah, I saw some comments too of people who were talking about how much they love it, like when their partner wears running shoes all day and then they take them off and their feet absolutely stink. That's obviously the olfactophilia side of things.
I saw tons of comments about that. Sweaty feet
Yep.
being a big thing and really stinky feet as well. So I guess don't be too shy if that's something you got. You just got to find the right nose.
That's it. There's always someone out there for you. Don't feel disheartened.
Every pot has a lid. Every lid has a pot.
Not in my house. The fucking lids are everywhere.
So with the porn component of this, there's not a lot of detail around how many people actually consume foot fetish porn, and that is largely because it is varied.
It's so diverse, so I think trying to really put it into one category would be difficult. And I think because so many people are into different aspects of feet, it's not really something that they have some really concrete data on. But what we do know is that it is wildly popular and that a lot of people are into it.
1 in 7.
1 in 7 is a lot.
Not all foot play equals fetishism. Some people can just enjoy it situationally. So that might mean watching someone walk across someone else's back, or something where someone has got shoes, or they're taking their shoes off, or they're being penetrated by a foot, or they're licking or kissing a foot as a form of submission, or they are having their foot licked or kissed as a form of domination, or something in those realms. So it's very hard to distill it down into the statistics of who is watching it for feet.
Yeah, and I think because it is so diverse and there are people who are into different things, the search results for what we watched were really quite different because the thing that I watched, the content that I watched was around feet, but it was also around stockings and shoes and stuff like that.
Overwhelmingly, it's female performers in pornography on Pornhub, but that is largely because it's heteronormative binary gender when it comes to desire around feet, although we know statistically it's more likely to be gay and bisexual men. So it's hard to find a lot of varied research, not a lot of information about the diversity of body types or racial representation. Any queer content would have to be something you would actively search for. The other side of it is that while we're looking at the porn statistics specifically, things like DIY craft channels where people show how to paint their toenails or how to squish food between their feet or do certain things to do foot care also meet the criteria for fetish content for some people, which means that it's quite, again, difficult to find those statistics because you've got people going outside of what we would normally access for porn to meet sexual needs.
It kind of makes me wonder like whether this is a safer option for people to meet that need, to be able to watch something like 5-minute crafts and their search history not kind of do them in because what they're watching is little craft hacks, but it's actually somebody with their feet out the whole time, pointing, flexing, painting, dipping them in things, that sort of stuff. And so, it's kind of, I guess, a safe way to dip your toes in. And yeah.
Feet fetishes, feet attraction, feet kink, feet play is very common. And when it comes to making it in porn, it is something that is not limited by shape, ethnicity, clean feet, dirty feet, large, long toenails. It could literally be anything. There is going to be an audience for it. So it's relatively cheap to make, which is also probably why it's such a big earner for content creators.
They can saturate the market in so many different ways, as we sort of talked about with all the different varieties and aspects and fetishes, kinks, etc. And super easy to make. And you can make it yourself if you really wanted. If you have a camera and you have feet, somebody's going to be into it.
Yeah. And the beauty of the content creation is that you get the intimacy and personal connection that quite a lot of people look for when they have the parasocial relationships that they do with porn stars. There is a lack of critical thinking when it comes to porn stars or content creators and in pornographic spaces like that, like Pornhub, because people start to develop relationships with them that maybe they can't necessarily continue. Whereas if it's an online creator, like someone on OnlyFans, they have the access to that person and they can make custom requests, which again blurs the statistics on how many people are actually accessing this, because we don't have information about how many people are asking for custom requests on OnlyFans and associated websites like Sunroom.
These days, if you watch porn online, big content creators, or even quite niche content creators now, when they film scenes that aren't foot fetish scenes, often they'll not include feet in the scene because then they're taking away from that market where people are getting that content for free.
That's fascinating.
Every sort of body part could be marketed in its own right for people who are into that sort of thing.
I don't think there's a body part that somebody hasn't sexualized at some point.
What are we doing with our lives? Like,
I don't know.
We have feet.
I've got teeth.
You have nice teeth, so I think you'd probably go all right.
Yeah, I could do something with my teeth. I reckon I could do something with my ears.
I'm not sure it's going to be as lucrative as your feet, though. That's the problem.
No, and that's fair. Like, I think I could make a pretty penny with my feet.
I'd be interested to see what the average price of foot pictures or foot videos or like custom feet content is.
So for feet fetish content creators, Lauren Spencer earns $150,000 a year, sometimes focusing on foot fetish content, treating her work as a business. I mean, good for her. Congrats,
wow.
Lauren.
Get that bag, girl.
Yeah.
I'm so jelly.
Foot models are usually paid by the hour or the number of ads they do. So at the daily range for foot models, not on OnlyFans, people modeling their feet, is $100 to $500.
That's pretty good.
Looks like there's no specific content, like what type of foot picture makes the most money. It doesn't really have a type.
It's really about the demand, right? Like if somebody says, I really want you to take a video in socks squishing cake, but it has to be chocolate cake with strawberries on top, and I'll give you $500 for it. Like, mate.
Someone pay me. Honestly, I'll do it.
Girl, I'm buying cakes and I'm stomping the fuck out of them, and somebody can buy these pictures and videos.
Do you know what I would also do? That thing where you get two people's feet together and grasp toes as though you are like holding hands, but you are holding feet together, and then squish a cake between them.
So I actually have a friend that mentioned they tried selling feet pics once, and they got their toes and a friend's toes and did that, interlock them and sold them, but they only made $10. And I was like, you know what? You got to start somewhere, right?
Also, I feel like, yeah, $10 isn't great, but you would have done it for free just to see if you could interlock the toes. So really,
exactly, you had fun and you made money,
and you made a friend.
You made a friend for life.
You made a friend.
You held toes.
You cemented your friendship in a really sweet way.
So special. We love that.
We do love that. There are quite a few research surveys around who is accessing feet material in different countries. So an Italian study looked at online fetish members and found feet were the common focus for them, with about 44,700 people showing interest. This made up almost half of all body part fetishes for that website. There's an American report in 2006 that when subscribers search for fetish material, the most common search term was feet. Another one in Belgium where they found 17% of men and 4% of women said they had a sexual interest in feet. And in 2017, a Canadian survey of over 1,000 adults found that about half had at least one sexual interest that could be called a fetish. A third of people acted on it, and feet were included in this list.
A lot of the research that I did, there weren't a lot of cis-het females that I could find that were into feet. It was definitely more so the cis-het men. I mean, there was also some instances of non-binary and gender-diverse people as well. But for the most part, it was the heterosexual men that were into feet.
I actually got a similar thing, but like it was a lot of gay bisexual men as well.
Yeah.
There was a study done where they found that 1 in 7 people reported having a foot fantasy, not a fetish, a fantasy. Breaking that down into people who'd fantasized about feet, we had 5% heterosexual women, 18% heterosexual men, 11% lesbian and bisexual women, and 21% gay and bisexual men. So it far and above was the biggest group.
Yeah, and that makes sense because I've seen a lot of content online in my travels again of gay bisexual men, especially that have a thing for feet, and I know that it's something that's really quite popular on apps like Grindr and Sniffies and stuff like that too.
How aptly named.
I literally just got what you said then.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, but it is something that is super common, and I wonder if also that comes down to the implications of masculinity as well, with men being into a lot of kind of like raw masculine smells like sweat and body odor and that sort of stuff. And something that I think also coincides is quite hairy people who also are into things like pits and sweat and feet, mostly in the gay and bi community from what I've seen.
It is the most common type of sexual partialism fetish, though, meaning that it is where we might have fetishes about knees, ears, neck, like attraction to shoulders or hands or something like that. Feet are far and above the most common non-sexual sexual partialism fetish.
Yeah, I've never really seen too many search results or categories that have body parts outside of genitals or things that are considered normally sexual anyway, other than feet.
I mean, you've got some major websites around it, and lots of money is made.
Yeah, and the amount of times that, I know I personally have joked about, selling my feet pictures online to retire early. It's really become a thing.
Just want you to know that if you made a tea towel with a picture of your feet on it, or like artwork with a picture of your feet on it, I would seriously consider buying it. I wouldn't
Now,
actually buy it, but I would consider supporting you financially.
the motivation would be there. It's just that the intent to actually follow through might not be.
Yeah, I'd lose desire around that, I think.
Yeah.
But just know that I would, I guess, emotionally support you in that endeavor.
No, I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Matt, would you like to tell me about where do we begin when it came to foot fetishes and attraction?
Foot worship, in a sense, can be predated back to biblical times when we talk about Jesus Christ having his feet kissed and worshipped. There is a lot of instances in the Bible of people kissing and washing feet. And I guess that kind of speaks to symbolism of intimacy, servitude, and also sees the feet as being something that is what's the word that I'm looking for?
It's reverence, I think. Like they're being carried. This is the thing that's carried you through your troubles and your strifes.
Yeah, and it's something to be respected, something to be worshipped and to be cherished. And so there's a number of themes that are kind of present throughout these instances in the Bible, including submission and humility. So something like sitting at or falling at Jesus' feet is recognition of him being the supreme authority and also a desire to submit to his teachings and lordship. There's also gratitude and love. The act of worshipping at his feet expresses profound love, gratitude, and honor for all that Jesus and all that he has done. Authentic worship, which signifies true worship that is sacrificial and costly, focusing on exalting Christ rather than personal comfort or pride.
I mean, all of these themes you kind of see in...
All of these translate into porn.
Foreplay. Yeah, all of them.
Yeah. But this is essentially just like the birthplace of foot fetishism and foot worship.
Some of the early artists that painted pictures of Jesus on the cross and John the Baptist really focused in on John the Baptist kissing Jesus's feet and like stroking and like rubbing oil on them and all that sort of stuff. And the Vatican Church knocked back those paintings because they felt they were too inappropriate. They weren't depicting Jesus' relationship with John the Baptist appropriately, which is why we don't see the foot fetishism from back then.
That is funny.
Thought that was really interesting.
And also, you just love them fucking souls.
It's not just the souls that get into heaven, but the souls that get into heaven.
That's another one for a t-shirt. Oh, fuck.
When we're talking about why people enjoy looking at feet, touching feet, sniffing feet, being trampled on, licking it, eating food off it,
jerking off onto them, using them for jerk-off instructions,
all of that sort of stuff, there are a bunch of reasons why researchers think that people can develop a foot fetish, not just a kink, but a fetish, because the kink, again, is something that can be introduced and also taken away from a sexual experience, whereas a fetish is something that is integral to it. And one of the ones is the neural crosswalk. When they've done some brain mapping, they've found that feet and genitals in the brain are right next to each other. So if you might be licking or sucking or tickling or rubbing your genitals, you can sometimes have the confusion across the two. That's not a very good explanation.
Yeah, this one is hard to explain, but when you actually read the research of, why this might occur, it makes sense, because essentially what they're saying was the somatosensory cortex is involved. Is that correct?
Beautifully said.
And the different regions in the somatosensory cortex are close by each other, and so it's easy for there to be some sort of bleed over into the other one from one another.
So that's called the neural crosswalk. When somebody can experience orgasm from their feet instead of their genitals, because where you would normally have the neurological sensations being sent to your genital part of the brain, it gets sent to the feet instead.
I was going to say, it sounds quite similar to people who can orgasm just from playing with their nipples.
Yeah, or people who can orgasm from just playing with their ears.
Whoa. Can you imagine? I can't do that.
Yeah, no, it's actually pretty common.
Nipples may be, close, but not quite.
The other perspective is that it's not necessarily neurologically based, and that it is a learned fetish or a learned kink or a learned sexual desire from being young and being around somebody who maybe had feet that you were attracted to, or you had an experience where you positively associated feet with arousal. And when I say positively associated, we mean that in the scientific language. It has a positive correlation or a positive association with an experience, and feet were there, but you were aroused at the same time. And so suddenly both of those things were intimately connected.
Through comments on Reddit and places like that, is people who have said when they were younger and their dad would come home from work and take off his boots if they were on the floor near them and they could smell his boots, that was something that was, in a sense, a positive reaction. Dad's the caregiver. It's something that made them feel close to him. And then as they've grown older, that smell has trickled over into something that is enjoyable and is eventually has sort of become something that has been involved in a sexual way and become a kink or a fetish as well.
Remembering that a lot of our research here happened in the 70s and 80s and 90s, when most of the research was westernized, heteronormative, and based on the nuclear family model. So how much of this is actually accurate, we couldn't really say. But the other side of it was that the same thing would happen with mum. So you'd have kids kind of crawling around the feet, and they would associate positively feet with growing up and having some type of affection or attachment, or a lack of. So if there was any emotional neglect happening, they would start to develop more of a relationship with their mum's feet. It's researched, but I don't know that it's been re-researched.
Should we also touch on the Freudian theories as well?
Oh God, yeah.
let's
should.
Let's touch on it, but let's also take it with a grain of salt, or in Freud's case, a grain of cocaine. And just remember that a lot of the things that Freud did theorize, there's not a lot of strong evidence to support these days.
Freud felt that fetishes arose in early childhood because when a child saw their mother's genitals, they were confused and shocked that their mother didn't have a penis, and so they'd fixate on objects or body parts that look like penises.
And apparently feet can be quite phallic.
As we're learning. Do you ever think that Freud maybe thought too much?
Yeah, I think Freud, he may have had his own issues, to be honest. Feet being phallic, it reminded me of that video I sent you of the person shoving a whole foot inside another person. That was quite phallic, wasn't it?
I had repressed that memory.
Freud would want you to not repress it and to maybe bring it back into the foreground.
Yeah, okay, cool. Thanks for that. Now I've... There is another one, and that's sexual signaling theory. People look at feet as an indicator of good genetics and good grooming.
That in itself is kind of interesting too, when you think about, the distinctions between a person who doesn't maintain their feet or has, dirty feet, overgrown toenails, and compared to somebody who gets a pedi and has their nails done and all that sort of stuff. It really speaks to perceptions of social hierarchy or how well-to-do somebody might be or whether they're a good person.
Yeah, I mean, typically speaking, anyone who's got wealth is going to be able to take better care of that. Their feet are going to be softer. Their feet are going to be cleaner. They're going to have less calluses. They're going to have less acquired variations through hard work. So throughout time, we see people develop some type of difficulty with their foot or develop a podiatry issue because of maybe the work that they're doing, because they have to earn money. Maybe they're not as wealthy. But it's a very interesting way of looking at the social side of where a fetish might come from.
And you know who would be into those kind of well-manicured, well, I mean, I'm taking a stab in the dark, but somebody who is rather famous and into feet is the one and only Quentin Tarantino.
How do you know that?
Well, I read it.
Did you also watch all of his movies just for the feet cameos?
I've seen a lot of his movies, and it's not something that I ever really kind of recognized or was aware of. But I think if I was to go back now and watch them, it's something that I would definitely be far more attuned to when it comes to seeing those themes in the movies. I think I was probably not really watching them for that reason. It was more like Uma Thurman in Skin Tight Lycra or whatever the fuck that was.
You watched them for Salma Hayek, didn't you?
I'm not going to lie. I did.
There are other socialization theories and historical theories around how this developed. One of the things was that throughout history, there was basically an upkick in recorded poetry, eroticized literature, and art featuring foot fetishes whenever there was a plague or massive amounts of sexually transmitted diseases, because it was a body part that people could play with without risking the spread of an STI or risking the spread of disease. So it's like the 13th century, the 18th, then the 2000s, when the HIV epidemic was happening. That was one of the things. You could have people going to a place together and they could use their feet to masturbate another person, or they could play with another person's foot. And like you said, there's penetration that can come with feet. Licking and sucking and all of those things, but you're not risking any sexually transmitted diseases. For some people, they eventually developed, it became a learned fetish.
It's pretty smart, hey, like when we have those public health crises that people are able to pivot, and it's like a kind of harm minimization where you can sort of go down the route where you can do something that is sexual, but also less likely to be a way to transmit a disease or an infection.
Which is honestly fascinating, because at the time, specifically like the HIV epidemic, they didn't really know what was causing it. They didn't know how people were transmitting it. So there was almost an avoidance in the early days of a lot of touch, kissing, sex, and so forth.
Is really quite diverse when it comes to the things that you can do with feet or around feet in a sexual way. As we sort of talked about, you can use them to jerk off, you can insert them, you can come on them, you can do all kinds of things, and it's still enjoyable, it's sexual, and there is that sense of harm minimization.
And one of the things around like feet fetishes specifically is that it can be used for submission or domination. So it lends itself to kink and BDSM practices regardless, because you can find yourself being told to lick the dirt off someone else's foot as a form of humiliation as a submissive. Or you could be trampled on, you could be stood on, you could be walked over. You could have somebody demoralizing you, essentially being like, kiss my feet, because you're, on the ground, crouched down, and this is the part of my body that you're allowed to touch. We have had this throughout the centuries.
And on the flip side to that, it can be an absolute endearment as well. I think when I was younger, I worked in a strip club and we had somebody with a foot fetish that used to come in and he'd book dancers to sit there with him for hours. And he would simply just get them to sit there and he would worship their feet. He'd get them to point their toes. He'd massage their feet. He'd, just admire them. And so I think there's that real kind of flip between the submissive side of, being made to submit and worship the feet, clean them, etc. And then there's the other side where it's just absolute adoration and admiration of feet and everything that's unique about them, and I guess beautiful to those people.
Particularly because they're usually something that people use to walk around and do things and achieve things throughout the day. So you can have people who like the idea of someone having bare feet and dirty feet because it means that they've been used. And one of the other things is, because we don't often see feet or touch feet like we do with hands or shoulders or necks or anything like that, it's very intimate to play with someone else's feet, to be invited to touch them, to lick them, to suck them. There's an element of trust and safety that can go with that, an intimacy that makes that something very special for some people.
Yeah, I did see comments from people who said that in the same way that you watch somebody get undressed, you've got the build up beforehand because you're just waiting to see what's underneath their clothing. It's really quite similar when it comes to somebody taking off a sock. Like a sock is like the underwear for feet. And people kind of,
it goes on a t-shirt.
When you take your sock off, it's kind of like, taking your underwear off and finally seeing what they're endowed with or what's going on underneath. You kind of thinking about it, fantasizing about it, and then when you actually see it, you're like, damn, some nice feet.
I hope you actually say it like that with that accent. Damn, them some nice feet.
Well, the next time that someone takes their socks off in front of me, you best believe that's what I'm going to be saying. It's going to be weird when it's in public and some random person just taking their shoes off and I'm standing there looking up and going, damn, some nice feet.
All I could think was merch idea. You get a pair of socks that just say sock, the underwear of the foot.
The underwear of the foot. Oh my God, write that down. We have to do that. I love that.
So what about different cultures? Because we know that we've got Western culture's perspective of foot fetishism, but in like other cultures, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a fetish. It can be part of their cultural narrative and their history.
Yeah, I think foot fetishism, foot worship, foot partialism is something that we can see in a lot of different cultural contexts throughout history, essentially. Feet was something that was viewed as impure, but also touching your teachers or your elders' feet was something that signaled reverence, respect, and it kind of also highlights the duality of taboo in terms of how the respect can heighten erotic tension.
I mean, that's a good point. Erotic tension between the taboo of not being allowed to touch feet, but then also knowing that touching someone's feet, kissing them, massaging them is incredibly respectful and you're not supposed to do it, but you are doing it. And now suddenly you're rocking a hard on. Or whatever genital part of you gets hard and wet.
Yes. And I think another thing that we also need to touch on is practices like foot binding, which occurred in China for quite some time. So essentially, foot binding was taking the feet of young girls, young women, and breaking them and binding them with bandages, stopping them from being able to grow as they normally would to try and keep them small and petite. And they called them lotus feet.
What I found interesting around the lotus foot was it essentially sexualized the foot for hundreds of years for millions of people. It became something that was a standard of submission. There was a reverence around it. Like we were talking about the sexual social cues or sexual signaling. This meant something to people when they saw a foot that was a lotus foot. The smaller the foot, the more attractive. The harder it was to walk, the more attractive. Some people would smell or lick the bandages of lotus feet. This is also that learned fetish where it has a deeper meaning of this is female submission. This person is incredibly precious because their feet are so small and so broken. Although it wouldn't have been seen like that. It would have been seen as something to be worshipped in its own way.
There is that sort of contrast between both the submission and the worship side of things, where obviously their feet are being broken and bandaged to be tiny and petite, and that's something that is sought after. But then on the other hand, it's something that's worshipped and something that is, I guess, admired.
Interesting. Can we talk about the leg and foot rubbing? And it's integrated into a lot of mainstream depictions of feet fetishism that we see in some types of Japanese media. What we do know about feet generally is that they do have nerves in them that feel amazing when they're touched. If you've ever had a foot massage of any kind, erotic or not, it can be something that feels very stimulating and very relaxing, and relaxation helps with arousal.
Super awkward though if you're sitting there getting a foot massage in a parlor and all of a sudden you've got a raging erection or you're, dripping.
I would hope that you're wearing loose enough pants that they can't see you dripping, Matt. If you're interested in dipping your toes into foot fetishes or foot kinks, foot play, foot worship, all of the foots and the feets, we're going to talk you through some of the legitimate platforms that you can use, and then how you might also be able to do this for yourself in real time. If you are with a partner and it's something that you want to introduce, it may be something where you offer to massage feet. You might even start with something as simple as that, pointing out that you like to massage them and it feels really nice, or drawing attention to shoes that you're wearing, asking your partner to pick out your shoes if you find out that it's something that they're into and you're trying to make them feel comfortable. If you are interested, maybe you're looking after your feet a little better, go get a pedicure.
Yeah, and also not necessarily going straight into the kink stuff, but even asking questions around like, hey, how do you feel about your feet? Do you enjoy having your feet touched in general? Or is it something that you're just really not into?
You're like, how do we introduce it to a partner? You might not be into it. Having the conversation with somebody, they might be similar to you and I, Matt, and you might have a partner that just has a neutral feeling around it, doesn't really care that much, and is perfectly fine to indulge whatever sexual needs you have around feet, but maybe they're not that into it, and that's okay.
There's a saying that Dan Savage has, I believe it's good, giving, and game. So even if it's not something that you're into, like, don't write it off completely. It might be something that you could try, and who knows, you might even be surprised. You might be into it, or you might at least enjoy it.
We've also got that compersion. We like to see our partners enjoy themselves. So sometimes, even if it's not our thing, even if we don't necessarily understand it, we might enjoy watching our partners enjoy themselves doing that thing.
Exactly. For instance, I hate people touching my feet, but I'm more than happy to give somebody a foot massage if that's what they like.
Great example. Truly. Some life-changing shit there, Matt.
I know. Thanks.
You might also want to talk about how you can introduce foot play without necessarily having, let's say, penetrative sex with a foot, or having someone trample you, or licking or sucking at that point. It might just be, can I play with your foot? Can I massage your foot while you masturbate? So your partner is able to have a nice time and you play with the foot. Over time, maybe that's something that they themselves socially learn that they enjoy, because they start to positively associate those two things, orgasm with foot play.
And could it even just be, some sort of foot worship as simple as kissing somebody's feet or stroking them or caressing them? From, I guess, simple foot worship, we can escalate things if that's in the best interest of all people involved and consenting. And we can look at things like foot jerking off, mutual masturbation with feet, insertion,
trampling, stomping, coming on feet.
If you're that way inclined, then have a conversation if that's something that you feel ready and able to do.
Kind of be aware of what it is that you like. So you might already have an idea. You like dirty, you like clean, you like bunions, you like calluses, chipped toenails, polished toenails. You might have a whole bunch of opinions on what it is that you enjoy. You can do that through a myriad of websites. So there's InstaFeet, Fun with Feet, Feetify, Feet Finder, TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, DIY crafts, YouTube.
The internet is your oyster, essentially. When it comes to feet, it's your one-stop shop. You can type feet in and you're almost guaranteed you're going to find feet. Not just for pictures too, like people's experiences or, talking about the things that they enjoy / don't enjoy when it comes to feet, as well as things you've never even considered. Squashing food with your feet, that's not really something that I'd really thought too much about up until we had an in-depth conversation about what we'd eat off each other's feet.
I didn't realize we were talking about each other's feet. I thought we were talking about a nondescript third party that was objective. If it was your feet, I don't know.
No, it was nondescript feet and touching my feet.
But so there was other things. If you're looking to do this for yourself, there are also things called foot fetish parties. So if you're going to places like Red Hot Pie or Adult Friend Finder, what's
Field,
that other website?
FetLife.
Field and FetLife. Yep.
Grinder, Sniffies, Scruff. I'm sure there's plenty more.
If you're looking for a group of like-minded people who share an appreciation for feet so that all of you can get in a room together and appreciate feet together in a very openly positive and connecting way, foot fetish parties exist.
You'll also be glad to know there are massive communities when it comes to this kind of stuff. All you have to do is open up something like Reddit, type in feet fetish, and there's heaps of communities that you can join, and they have plenty of information, people's experiences, tips, tricks, all kinds of stuff at your fingertips, toe tips even.
And if you are at home alone and this is something you're interested in but you don't necessarily want to head out into the wide world, there is a sex toy called the vajankle.
Google that.
It's a foot with a penetrative vaginal sleeve inside of it. Sometimes it's at the ankle end and sometimes it's in the heel.
It just really depends on what you're into. Like if you would rather fuck the sole of a foot or you'd rather fuck someone's ankle, you got options.
My God, you could do both. Some of them don't come in with any bone structure either, so you can buy 2 feet and use both of the feet to jerk yourself off. But initially the toy was... I hate you. Initially, the toy was one person's tireless effort in contacting a sex toy company, telling them what they wanted until this company made the toy for them.
I would absolutely love to see that email thread.
I'm actually picturing someone who's drawn it, hand-drawn, in their head, like a design. They've been like, I have enclosed for your perusal. And it's just a picture of someone's like self-drawn foot. I don't even imagine it's good. And they've gone like an arrow pointing at the top being like, put hole here.
But also, like, you can customize it. You can vajankle it. Like, vajazzling, except for the ankle. Vajankling.
The fact that you use the word vajazzle.
Get your rhinestones and your hot glue gun out and just fucking go nuts.
You can vajazzle your vajankle.
Vajankling.
Oh.
I love it.
Anyway, if that's a toy that you're into, it exists and it is available for you, usually around $100 to $200. You can get 1, you can get 2. They can have bones. You can use, or a structure, sorry, not bones. You can share them with a friend. What am I saying? Initially,
sharing
I was like,
caring.
You can't, but
you've got to hold the foot for the other person. We should be sex toy designers because I reckon we'd excel.
We do have an email address if anyone's interested in our ideas. Obviously, they are unique. and only half discussed.
Cater to a niche market.
Post nut peer support. Post nut peer support. No? What are we doing? Hey guys. So post nut peer support, where we look at the comments on some of your favorite videos. Maybe we're even looking at your comments and you've got a really great anonymous name that we'll never learn.
Maybe we're looking at your video.
So I found a couple that I really liked. One was, "This is not what I meant when I typed footballs." Fuck a digital footprint. I want a digital foot job. And I think my favorite, to be honest, the one I really enjoyed was, "Can anyone tell me what bird is singing at 3:05? And then someone's written a response, "The Eurasian-breasted robin." And you know what? I can only get behind that.
The one that was in the group chat. Where's that? Let me see.
Here we go. "I want a sub that will crawl around on all fours and lick me and my friend's feet while we ignore you like our little foot cleaning Roomba." I'm not mad about it.
Some of these just aren't funny because people are just so into the feet.
Yeah, right. There's a group of them that I found that I think really demonstrated how varied the interest was. And it was, "Your big toes are so badly clipped, it makes them more perfect." And then someone else had written underneath it, "Please buy her some clippers, someone." And then someone underneath that had written, "Your socks are too dirty." And then underneath that was another one that was like, "I would do anything to lick the dirt off your socks." I mean, I think it's a great example of just how varied the interest is. Dirty, clean, smelly, not smelly, chipped nails, clean nails, polished feet, irregularities in the feet, perfect feet. It does not matter. If it's a foot and someone's interested in it, it's a foot. It doesn't even need to be a foot. It just has to be nearby a foot.
This is how somebody's scaled whether or not they're into feet. It says, on a scale of 1 to necrophilia. It's not that bad.
That is perfection.
And then someone else said, "King shaming is really ugly." That's so funny.
If you are interested in learning more about feet and you're looking for a quick read, there's a book by Adam Smith called Soulmates, spelled S-O-L-E. It's about a 2-hour audiobook, and it's a nice quick introduction if it's something that you're curious about. So Soulmates, A History of Our Fetish for Feet by Adam Smith. He himself identifies as a toe botherer in his words. And it's just a bit of research around the history of foot fetishes, the sex archives, and a look through online forums, art, Bible stories, Tarantino films, Renaissance paintings, and OnlyFans. So it's an interesting 2 hours if it's something that you're looking to explore a little bit more for yourself. He literally starts with, "Why are feet so hot? When Jesus washed his bro's feet, what kind of love was he showing?"
Hashtag no homo. If Jesus can do it, then I guess, you can do it for your bros.
Mm. Do we feel like we were positive about foot fetishes?
I think we were. Well, we weren't negative about them.
No.
We're true to our thoughts and feelings about them. We're not but you can't pretend to be into something anyway. So, I mean, if we were overhyped about it, then we'd be lying. Sounds like it was written by Donald Trump. "That'd be the most beautiful feet you've ever seen. She's got feet, they're big. The bigliest feet ever. I know, because I know feet. I know feet better than anybody knows feet."
All right, I'm going to bed.
It's probably for the best. And that's a wrap on today's deep, weird dive into your browser history. Was it good for you? Let us know in the comments. Shout out to Frankie and the Woods family for your ongoing contributions. See you next time for your favorite family barbecue background chat show.